Last year, the Australian share market delivered a return well below its long-term average. Meanwhile, one of the country's most recognised ETFs had nearly half of its money sitting in just 10 stocks. Two companies, BHP and Commonwealth Bank, make up over 21% of the entire fund. That's not full diversification. That's Australian market concentration wearing a simple label.
Should I buy that ETF?
VAS, the Vanguard Australian Shares Index ETF, 308 companies, one trade, 0.07% management fee. It's simple, less thinking, less mucking around, and sometimes simple is exactly what you need. But simple is not the same as complete, and VAS is not a complete financial plan. Let's look at what's actually on the plate. According to Vanguard's June 2026 fact sheet, the top 10 holdings make up 47.2% of the entire ETF. Financials, roughly a third. Materials, roughly a quarter. That means close to 6 out of every $10 you put into VAS sits in Australian banks and miners. BHP, CBA, Westpac, NAB, ANZ, Rio. When someone says VAS is diversified, what they really mean is diversified within Australian shares. That's one country, one currency, one economy. And that distinction really does matter. Here's where this plays out in real life. Imagine a couple in their early 40s. They own a home in Australia. Their jobs are in Australia. Their super is partially in Australian shares. Their bank account is in Australian dollars. Then they start buying VAS outside of super because they've heard that it's a simple, diversified way to invest. On paper, they now own hundreds of companies, but zoom out, their income, their house, their super, their investments, their currency, their retirement hopes, they're all leaning in exactly the same direction. And that's not automatically a problem, but it's worth noticing. Diversification is not about how many companies you own. It's about the types of risks that you're exposed to. And sometimes we feel diversified because we own more things, when really, we just own more versions of the same broad risk. Vanguard's own target market determination marks major, core, minor, and satellite use, as in target market, but marks solution or standalone use as unlikely to be in the target market. That's Vanguard's document, not mine. A building block is not a house, and buying one building block doesn't mean you've built anything yet. VAS carries a high to very high risk rating. Vanguard themselves suggest a minimum investment timeframe of 7 years. That should really make people pause because buying it feels really clean and really easy. You just open the app and you type in the ticker and you press buy, you're done. But you're still buying shares, and shares can fall, sometimes very, very quickly. Vanguard's PDS is clear. You may lose some or all of your money. Distributions aren't guaranteed. Past performance isn't future performance. Don't let the boring wording here hide the real life meaning. The real life meaning is if you invest money you need in 2 years and the market drops, VAS does not care. It doesn't know your kids' school fees are due. It doesn't know you were saving for a house deposit. The market doesn't sit there thinking, Luke seems like a nice bloke, so maybe we'll give him a smoother ride. That would be lovely, but it's not how it works. Liquidity is another one. VAS is generally easy to buy and sell, but being able to sell quickly is not the same as being able to sell at a price you like. Liquidity means access. It does not mean comfort. So ask yourself, if this money fell 20, 30, or 40%, could I still leave it alone? If the answer is no, the issue might not be VAS. The issue might be the job you're asking it to do. VAS pays quarterly distributions, and for Australian investors, those might include franking credits. That can feel attractive. Money landing in the account feels more real than capital growth. You can see it, you can spend it, it feels like the investment is working. But past distributions are not an indication of future distributions. And distribution amounts vary all the time. So there may be periods where no distributions are made at all. Franking credits have a real value, especially for Australian taxpayers, but they're not a fixed deposit. They're a reflection of the tax already paid by the company's VAS holds. If those companies earn less, or if tax policy changes, franking credits can shrink or disappear completely. Income paid by shares is not the same as income paid by a term deposit or on a bank deposit. One of those is contractual, the other is discretionary. If your plan relies entirely on those distributions being a certain size at a certain time, every single quarter, then you're not investing, you're kind of hoping that it's going to play out that way. Now, none of this is saying that VAS is bad. It's not. It's a genuinely useful building block. For someone building a portfolio, VAS can be a useful way to get Australian shares exposure without picking individual stocks. VAS can make a lot of sense. Low cost, simple, does the job. But the key phrase there is building block, not the whole house. The mistake I see is when people treat VAS as a set and forget total portfolio solution. It's not designed to be that. It's not priced like that, and Vanguard's own TMD says it shouldn't be used like that. What VAS gives you is efficient exposure to the Australian share market. Nothing more, nothing less. And the question here isn't, is VAS good? It's, what job am I hiring VAS to do for me? For some people, the answer is, it's my Australian shares allocation, and I've got other investments covering global shares or bonds or property or cash. For others, the honest answer might be, I don't actually know. I just bought some because it seemed popular. One of those is a plan. The other is going to end up as just being a collection of different products. And here's something that doesn't really get said enough. A cheap mistake is still a mistake. VAS costs 0.07%. That's a genuinely low fee. And online you'll see people comparing ETFs purely based on the fees. This one's 4 basis points cheaper, so it's better. It reminds me of buying a pair of running shoes. You can buy the cheapest pair in the shop, but if they don't fit, your feet are just going to hurt, and you're probably not going to run very far in them. The cheapest option that doesn't do the job you need is not a bargain. It's the wrong tool. Fees matter, but they're not the only thing that matters. Suitability matters far more. Time frame matters far, far more. And whether you can actually stick with it when things get rough matters way more. I've seen people obsess over a 0.05% fee difference while completely ignoring that they're overexposed to one country, one sector, one set of risks. That's like worrying about the price of petrol when you're driving in the wrong direction. Before using the Vanguard Australian shares option, or if you already own it, here's a 7-point checklist. And I want you to run through it honestly. What job is this money doing? Name it specifically. And I don't want it to just be I'm investing, but I want you to come up with the reason. This is my Australian shares allocation, or this is my long-term growth bucket. What else do you have leaning on the Australian economy? Your job, your house, your super? I want you to add it all up, and I want you to know your exposure to the Australian share market. What's the time frame? If it's under 7 years, it becomes much harder to justify using a share market ETF for that job, regardless of how cheap that ETF is. Can you handle a 30% drop without selling? Not hypothetically, but actually, when you're sitting there at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night with your app out, are you going to be able to handle that level of volatility? Do you know where your distributions are going to go? Are you reinvesting them? Are you spending them? Do you know what franking credits are worth to you? Is this a part of a plan, or is it the whole plan? If VAS is your only investment outside super, that's not a strategy. It's a starting point you haven't built on yet. What's your next building block going to be after this? If this is your Australian shares ticked off, what's next? Global shares, bonds, cash buffer? If you can answer all 7 very clearly, you're ahead of most people. And if you're still not sure, I want you to sit with these 3. 1, If the Australian share market dropped 30% and stayed there for 3 years, what would you actually do? And I don't want the answer you're giving to your friends at the barbecue. I want the real one. How would you react to a significant share market drop? Number 2, how much of your financial life is leaning on the same Australian economy? And is that a bet you're making intentionally or just really where the chips ended up landing? The third one, what's the one piece of your financial picture that VAS is definitely not solving? Because every product is going to leave a gap. Tell me what yours is. VAS can be a very useful product. It's low cost, broad exposure, easy to access. But a good product without a clear job is just a thing you own. In the next episode, I want to take a look at what true diversification actually looks like. And the answer might surprise you a little bit. Same time, same jingle, different ETF. So let me know, would you own this ETF?